Alright, Nation, I'm back. The funny thing is every time I turn this game on, I swear I'm not going to make another video. But then within the first two races, I'm like, I got to make a video of this. It's not that I'm going to explain anything, I just need there to be a witness to whatever the hell is going on.
It's St. Gamble as well for their Stroll down at Racing Point, and he's had to pit now, and he's down in 17th, and just behind Lando Norris, who was another one I think that stayed out on the wet weather tyres. 19 runners, we're on lap 10 at the moment, and it's Sergio Perez, the one driver that is out of this race after making contact with a wall.
And of course, in these conditions, you don't have to abide by the rule anymore of using two sets of different tyres. That's all falls away in terms of using two different types of dry compound, of course.
Right, Ted Kravitz, down to you.
So now everyone who stayed on the full wets of the safety
Alright, well,
car
I just did a race and I lost.
Williams, actually,
Again, my guys qualified 23 and 24.
Tyres. You would have thought you'd split your chances, and this is the kind of day where a team like Williams at the back might score points, but they didn't. Both were on, and both have been in, Russell and Kubica. Just quick one on the radar. It says there's heavier rain coming in about 10 to 15 minutes.
There's no respite. It's like before, when you would lose all your money, you could go down to $1,000 race, and like you'd be able to at least start to recoup your money. But
you go more slowly, you lose more temperature, you have less grip, you go slower again. And,
it feels like now you just go on these really epic losing streaks. And it's like last season you would lose, but it was because like you weren't paying attention, and you look over and like, oh shoot, I was supposed to give them full power. Or you would miss your pit stop or something like that, and that would cost you the win.
Down to Gunter Steiner on the Haas pit wall. Gunter, we can breathe a little bit now. That's been quite an action-packed opening 10 and a bit laps in this race. You took a gamble with Kevin Magnussen, which at the moment looks like it hasn't paid off.
Correct, we decided to split the strategy on both of them, but we need to do something. So and he was pretty happy to stay out on the wets. But in the moment it's paid off, but it's a long race to go.
So for Romain Grosjean as well, talk us through the pit lane incident with Charles Leclerc as you saw it down at Haas.
Yeah, they just released him in front of us, and then he had to go hard on his brake, and then we lost momentum, and then just some people, it's a 2.5 second pit stop in a second. A lot of things happened. We lost, I don't know, about 4 or 5 positions, so that was unfortunate, I would say.
Is there any kind of consideration of, wet conditions, safety car, pit stop, lots of car in? Are they more lenient, the stewards, in that, or do you fully expect Leclerc to take a penalty?
I don't know what the stewards do in this case, but why should it be different between a wet race and a dry race? It's dangerous. I mean, the unsafe pit release, it says in the word unsafe, it can be whatever it is, it's still unsafe.
And what's your weather radar saying, Gunter? Because I'm sure you've got much more information at your fingertips. When's the rain coming in?
We are like you, because it's rain everywhere, but then you've got this dry patch in the middle which keeps on moving around on the map, so we don't really know when it is coming and how much it is coming. That's the next point.
So what do you got out the back then? You've got wets, inters, hard, medium and soft all standing by, 2 sets of each waiting for the drivers when they need to come into the pits.
Whatever you want, we have got it.
And you might need it. Thanks, Gunter. Charles Leclerc needed some very quick reactions to stay in this race there, Martin.
Yeah, he dropped his left rear wheel over the curb on the outside. That's the drag racing start line. That is going to be so slippery. And look at it. And standing water for good measure. Well held, young man, because that would have been very easy to loop around. And then he got it back together. And his hands on the steering wheel looked like he was fighting an octopus, didn't they? He was really having to grapple with the car. But so dry areas as well. They think there's some rain coming. That's what Lewis's engineer Bono was saying to him. Like, hey, look after these tyres a little bit. We may need them. We may need some groove in these tyres later on to clear water. So don't burn them out.
Right. Talking of groove, who's dancing around in the midfield? Anthony Davis and Sky Race Control.
Well, yeah, I was just just a few things, guys. Vettel struggling for pace. Kimi Raikkonen's pulling away from him. I've just been hearing on the radio as well. They're talking in Italian about the turbo on Vettel's car. Different positions on the steering wheel, having to fiddle around with the turbo. Carlos Sainz was catching Vettel for a while, but now he's starting to drop back again. Lewis Hamilton's engineer came on the radio and say light rain is forecast very soon. Just a bit of light rain. So yeah, it's all going on. Teams are busy. Oh yes, and the final thing, Verstappen is stuck in the dirty air.
Carlos, weather forecast is just drops at times for the next 15 minutes. Just drops at times for the next 15 minutes.
Might get dry tyres, before we need to go to wets or inters again. We saw there Max Verstappen and saying he's stuck in the dirty air. Could be within striking distance of Valtteri Bottas in the next 2 laps, but that dirty air is obviously a penalty for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking at Vettel, and looking at Vettel's pace is particularly so. He's in clear air as well, relatively speaking. So he's clearly got an issue. He's now 33 seconds off the lead. Remember, it seemed 5 minutes ago I said he was 16.9 seconds off the lead. That's the kind of pace Vettel's lost. So he's out of it. He's really not got what's needed there. So it's a 3-horse race up front, with Leclerc just about keeping them in sight in 4th.
And Verstappen, I think, holding station on this lap, it seems, in his battle with Valtteri Bottas. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, they were reckoning that at crossover time, Crofty, that's the time at which, looking at the lap times, an Inter was starting to get a bit too slow and you'll be quicker on the dry tyres, was about 1 minute 27, 28, something like that. Hamilton's, what is he doing, 129s?
130.1 on his last lap.
So we're still a couple of seconds away from what the old number crunchers down here in the pit lane think is the time to switch over to slick tyres.
Stuck on the front right there, or just behind the wheel of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Talking of which, the stewards have just made a decision on the unsafe release, and they've imposed a team fine on Ferrari. So no penalty for Charles Leclerc, a penalty in terms of financial penalty for Ferrari. We can discuss this at length later on tonight, Martin Brundle.
Well, Leclerc didn't do anything wrong, did he?
But you win as a team and you lose as a team.
You can't take the driver and the car separately in those circumstances. They've decided not to interrupt the race. They've decided to get the pockets, the relatively deep pockets, it must be said, of Ferrari.
But there is a reason that it is called unsafe release. It's because it protects people's safety within the pit lane. If you're just going to dish out fines, teams will think that that's well worth it if it gains them track position. And I honestly don't like to see that. You've got to be strict when it comes to people's safety. But I say we'll discuss that later, because there's a lot to discuss in this race at the moment. And I'm told it's raining a little bit down on the pit wall as well at the moment. Here in our little commentary box, high up in the grandstand, overlooking those pit walls. It's absolutely bone dry, and I'm loving the action here. That is Daniel Ricciardo, and that looks like a massive engine problem for the Renault driver. And a visor full of God knows what for Pierre Gasly, who's gone ahead of Danny Kvyat.
Yeah, he passed Kvyat in the middle of all of that. Daniel wants to get back to the pits, go and catch his aeroplane or something, because he's not parking it, is he?
No, he's not.
He'll be a box of bits when he gets back.
So just as the track's drying out, he's got a bit slippy with everything that's pouring off the back of that Renault. And oh dear for Renault. That's more technical, engine-related worries. And Daniel Ricciardo has, I think, got to the Mercedes-Benz grandstand and pulled over to the side of the track and parked it in a safe place.
I don't know how safe it is from there, but till we see a wider shot. Ted?
We believe that was an old engine. That was engine number 1. You get 3 engines for the year, and that was on. They went back to engine number 1 because they wanted to have a fresh engine for the next race in Hungary, where they think they'll have Ricciardo will have a better chance of a good result. So it's not surprised it's gone.
That was pretty brave actually there of Gasly. No yellow flag, so there hasn't been an incident as such, but there's been the virtual safety car has been deployed to recover that Renault. I think if he's just on the outside of turn 8, he might be in the line of fire under braking. Yes, it will be.
He was seeking today, Daniel Ricciardo, a 7th consecutive race finish, which doesn't sound a lot, but it would have been his longest streak since the back end of 2015 and the start of 2016.
And look at the fuel and fluid that's been dropping out of the back of that. It's going to be slippery if you run over that. So hit the neutral button. The driver's obliged to put the steering wheel back on. There's a button on the front of the car So now we're going to see some more pit stops under the virtual safety car.
Yeah, they've thrown the virtual safety car whilst they clear that Renault. Lewis Hamilton complaining about the grip on his rear tyre. Max Verstappen on his front tyres. It's Charles Leclerc that's coming in first. He's made it first. Hamilton and Bottas have stayed out.
More inters by the looks of it.
It is more inters. I think it might be a free pit stop for Leclerc, or it would have been had he not have been stationary for quite so long. Definitely a free pit stop because Nico Hülkenberg was the car behind him, and he's pitting as well. So he was stationary for quite a long time, but it's not really cost him in terms of his position in the track, and the virtual safety car is now ending.
Sweet for Ferrari then, and Leclerc on that one. He's now got a fresh set of tyres for a cheap price in terms of track time, and with plenty of groove left on them if it does rain a bit, and plenty of grip anyway.
And Hülkenberg just got his pit stop done in time as well before the virtual safety car ended, so that might just have helped him. Anthony, to you.
Yeah, loads of chat, guys, about potentially going to the slick. So it was really busy on the radio just then. Max Verstappen umming and ahhing whether to take that risk or not. In the end, deciding not to, but they're still chatting about it now. The track is quickly drying.
Well, it's quickly drying, but they would have lost a little bit of temperature in these tyres under the virtual safety car because they were going so slowly. Robert Kubica getting lapped there for Williams, and the first of those running out on the track at the moment that has been lapped. We've lost Ricciardo and we've lost Perez. And what happened on the front left, was it? Charles Leclerc, front right. Wheel car just didn't go on properly.
Something wasn't working there. The tyre, I don't think the wheel was quite fully on the peg, was it?
No. This is the Renault of Nico Hülkenberg. Very late decision to come in for his pit stop, but fine, because he went to the right of that bollard.
Yeah, he was waiting, wasn't he? What are we doing? What are we doing?
That was inches away from not being a pit stop. Last minute call. DRS is now enabled. It's the first time we've actually had DRS in this race. It is, isn't it? So that will help Max Verstappen in his pursuit now of Valtteri Bottas. He's got a few more weapons at his disposal, and he's having a look down the headband. He's got it all wrong because Bottas was there for the taking, he thought, and in the end the gap just went away from him, and to avoid contact he had to go way deeper on the apex than he would have wanted, and look how that has cost Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that didn't work out at all well, did it? But in Leclerc's pace is going to be stellar now on a fresh set of intermediates, full temperature. And they released the virtual safety car the moment. Let's just watch this replay. So
he lost the back end.
Basically, the back end of the car just wouldn't stick. That was weird. So he wasn't really trying to overtake that one. He's trying to get track position, and the back end of the car is like, no way. You're asking too much of me there.
Oh, it's been an adventure, hasn't it, for all these drivers in the opening 18 laps here at Hockenheim. For Lewis Hamilton, pretty straightforward for most of it because he's been out in the lead all this time. For Valtteri Bottas, second place at the moment. For Max Verstappen, I'm sure the chance will come again. You can see the dry line starting to appear now.
Leclerc 3.2 seconds faster on that lap than Hamilton, trying to get back up to speed on his worn intermediate tyres. So the gap now, Leclerc to Hamilton, as you can see, well, it's showing plus 7.7 up there, but the interval out on the track when that squares itself up is 16.9 seconds off the lead.
For a team that haven't got their strategy right at a few of the races, shall we say, this season, Ferrari have got it absolutely spot on with that pit stop there for Charles Leclerc. So Verstappen being told to be patient by his pit wall. He might need to get a bit of a move on before Leclerc's right on his tail at this pace, Martin, in about 3 laps time. Here is the Renault of Nico Hülkenberg and the Alfa of Kimi Räikkönen scrapping away for 5th place, which currently Hülkenberg owns. He's just got past Kimi on the racetrack, and he's been catching the Alfa for a little while. Ted, down to you.
It's now
Ted, 2 seconds.
So you are the fastest car on track, round 2 to 3 seconds faster.
So go for it, young man. 10.
Yeah, go for it.
See?
It's now approaching that 10-15 minutes.
They go way fucking slower than you, and you just follow them instead of like going around them.
Watching the radar,
I don't get that shit. Like,
radar watching and anticipating something that's not going to come. And why isn't a team like maybe Stroll, Magnussen, Norris, Russell, Kubica having a chance on slick tyres?
Well, they took a chance, didn't they, at Racing Point and at Haas and at McLaren as well, to keep the wet tyres on, and that went against them. So maybe they're a bit more cautious as a result. This is Hulkenberg on Raikkonen.
Hulkenberg, of course, has a new set of inters like Leclerc as well. We saw that pit stop, and they're working a treat. Leclerc is now effectively, Hulkenberg's only...
Oh, that is Carlos Sainz. And Carlos Sainz has managed to keep the engine running, and that's down that drag racing strip again at the final turn.
He's done the same as Leclerc nearly did, hasn't he?
As he comes onto the track, his teammate Lando Norris passes him. Sainz was running comfortably in the top 10. He is now all the way down in 15th place. That has cost him dear. So right on board now. What happened?
Yeah, he's gone onto that. There we go. It's the skating rink, the drag strip.
It's about as grippy as an ice pop dipped in engine oil out there.
I'm going to keep that going as well.
It looks pretty, but it doesn't feel it, I'm sure.
Leclerc is now...
Sorry guys, that's unfortunate.
Leclerc is now 7 laps off leading this race, providing he can pass Verstappen and Bottas.
And if it rains, of course, don't forget that helps Charles Leclerc as well, because his tyres are that much newer, fresher, with more life in them as well. And also for Nico Hulkenberg, as you mentioned, Martin, also pitted under that virtual safety car. Started 10 penalty for an unsafe release for Romain Grosjean. Didn't. It was a fine instead. It's looking fine for him on the track.
Stadium first.
And it could rain soon. Anthony Davidson at Sky Race Control.
If it does rain for him, he's just been crying on the radio. His tyres are absolutely only going to play into Charles Leclerc's hands even more.
Leclerc's advantage will...
That was my fault.
Recede a little bit in terms of the extra he's got from these new inters, but he's still catching at a vast rate. He's now off the lead, 5 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen's crying about his tyres. Leclerc absolutely loves his, and he's really wringing the neck of that Ferrari, isn't he?
Not sure what's happening with Lewis Hamilton's tyres. He just lost a second to his teammate on that last lap. 5.5 seconds clear out in front at the moment.
And no traffic involved, no lappery involved in that. Leclerc right around the outside, the karting line, trying to find himself some grip, and he'll start catching sight now of...
These tyres are pretty knackered.
The trouble is, if they pitted Sebastian Vettel, he's going to lose places, but if the rain is going to come down again, then he's going to be in a very good position to make those places up once more. Leclerc now 4.7 seconds behind Max Verstappen in the podium places.
Well, it's not difficult to work out, is it? It's an 18-second pit stop, and you're going to go 3 seconds a lap faster on the fresh tyres. You may as well, you think you've got that window, you may as well put a fresh set of tyres on. You'll soon gain that 18 seconds back.
Well, they're keeping him out for at least one more lap. Sebastian Vettel, he doesn't like these tyres, but he's going to have to use them for a little bit longer. Hamilton leads from his teammate, Valtteri Bottas. He has been on the radio talking about his tyres. They're, at the moment, if they pitted Hamilton, then he's going to lose out to, well, Bottas, Verstappen and Leclerc. Now this is Lance Stroll and Kevin Magnussen scrapping away down in 15th and 16th. Stroll decides he's got more than enough room down the inside there to overtake the Haas. Magnussen and tried to fight that as long as he possibly could, then ran out of road to do so.
Yeah, Stroll had the corner, he was ahead. Slid on with the tyres and conditions, so Kevin Magnussen decided to stick with it around the outside, but that's fair enough. Oh, that's really deep there. Really deep there for Valtteri Bottas, so that is why they're suddenly coming across the stadium section with rain, and they're struggling to have enough grip on these heavily worn intermediate tyres. You need the rubber, you need the tread depth. It moves around, and that's what generates the temperature when you've got a depth of rubber.
They've got 1950s costume on, have Mercedes, as they celebrate their history, their glorious history in motorsport, their 200th Formula One start. All the engineers, of course, have got very modern-day data at their disposal, but I just wonder if the 1950s method, Martin, of an upturned palm to decide whether it's raining hard or it's not raining enough for a pit stop might be the best way to make a decision at the moment.
Vettel's asking for slick tyre, dry tyres apparently on the radio, but that may well have been just before it started to rain.
So Verstappen has got a bit closer now to Valtteri Bottas. Charles Leclerc should be within striking distance of getting in the Red Bull in about 7 laps time, but the overtake difficulty there showing that it's a little harder than 50-50.
Tremendous skill, 1,000 horsepower, no traction control in these cars, no stability control of any kind, no ABS brakes, of course, and every lap's a new adventure because the track's changing. It's raining a bit, it's not raining. People may be coming across and dragging water on, and so you've really got to live, as I said earlier on your wits.
Right, what would you put on the Haas, Martin, if you were making the calls?
Well, brave.
The soft tyre?
Yeah, it's got to be the soft. It's going to be the soft. I was wondering whether you'd bother putting a slick on at all. That's a bold move.
Kevin Magnussen, go and show us what you can do and fill your boots, my friend. Ted, down to you.
Well, it is bold and it is raining, but it's not very good rain, Crofty. It's not the kind of rain that you'd even bring a brolly out for. It's the kind of rain you think, oh, well, it's not so bad, it's not as if it's going to get my shirt wet. So, yes, it is raining. I see what the engineers are doing. The radar is saying it's going to rain now for another 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
But, well, intensity class 1 to 2. Yes. That's... let me translate that engineer speak. It's not raining that hard.
It's not going to get your shirt wet. Verstappen right on Bottas here into the hairpin once again. Don't forget, this time last year when it started raining, those that went on to the slick tyre, the warm, being toasted in the blanket slick tyre, were getting more grip than those on the Inters.
Yes, they were.
That's why Lewis Hamilton win.
As long as you keep it on the road. The problem you have is if you do slide wide and you're onto the wet stuff on the slick tyres, you've got double trouble. But we'll keep an eye then on Magnussen's sector times like everybody else in the pit lane will be. And Leclerc can now see this battle as well from 4th place, catching them. And once again then, Verstappen sort of dropped back a little bit, hasn't he?
He has. He gets very close, under braking into the hairpin, whether that's through his late braking or DRS assistance to catch Bottas before turn 6. Then the Mercedes tends to pull away a little bit, but I think he's much, much closer coming over the start-finish line than he has been for a few laps. But see how he's squirming about, trying to get some grip as he puts his foot down.
Really got no grip, have they? So Magnussen's middle sector was fine. Was about right. His final sector a bit slow actually on his outlap when the tyres are at their best in terms of the decent temperature.
And both Sebastian Box for new song. You're ready? Copy.
Slick tyres then for Sebastian Vettel, who wanted those a few moments ago, and we can see now from the rear wing of Valtteri Bottas Mercedes the DRS assisted Red Bull getting closer, but a few car lengths behind. He takes that inside line again, does Verstappen. I think you're right, Martin, that's not overtaking, that's just the line he prefers.
Yeah, he thinks there's more grip there, but Vettel then pits for slick tyres.
So he loses out to Giovinazzi and Gasly.
Magnussen still hasn't done a green sector on his, so they're in the clouds of the gods now. If it doesn't rain, they're going to look very smart and they'll get up to temperature eventually, as long as they don't fly off the road.
And there's Romain Grosjean getting past Sebastian Vettel as he comes back onto the road in 11th place. So just outside the points, but they've taken the gamble. It's a gamble worth taking if you're Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari. Didn't enjoy the Inters at that moment. What's he got to lose?
He wasn't enjoying turn 2 either, hacksawing away at the steering wheel, trying to coax his Ferrari into the corner.
Magnussen 40.6 in the middle sector. That's his best middle sector of this race so far, and that's a power slide from Max Verstappen, who's got no grip coming out of the corners.
Because his rear Inters are mauled in the critical traction patch. If you look at them, they've run out of tread. They've really got to put a set of tyres on Verstappen, and they're maybe leaving it a touch late. They could undercut Mercedes here and get in the pits. They've got Leclerc catching them as well. They could get in the pits and undercut that Mercedes. I imagine they might have missed that by a lap.
Yeah, they don't seem
Hamilton
to be in a hurry to
Hamilton
do
in.
anything
No,
at the
sorry,
moment.
it's a Williams. Sorry, I can see the difference.
No worries. The Williams is coming into the pits, as you rightly say, of Robert Kubica. There's Verstappen getting close to Bottas once again, but struggling once more out of the slow corner. But Bottas's tyres don't look that great either to me at the moment. And to Sky Race Control.
Yeah, so Verstappen's been complaining about the exits of that car and the tyres. He just hasn't got the grip in the exit of the corner. He's got the grip going into in the middle, but all the drivers, particularly Hamilton, are asking how Magnussen's getting on those slick tyres. I'm riding on board with him as we speak, and it looks so much faster than all of the intermediate runners. He's twitching around as the rain starts to fall again. It's really tense stuff.
And Sebastian Vettel's just set a personal best in the middle sector as well. Lando Norris saying that the last few corners are very wet. Everywhere else is dry at the moment. Are we about to see a few more gambles being taken by the teams? Depends, I suppose, your track position, where you are in the race. Verstappen's coming in. So here's the gamble by Red Bull, who now run out into the pit lane for Max Verstappen. Round the final corner comes Charles Leclerc and Kevin Magnussen, but Magnussen's a lap down.
But Magnussen's on slicks. If Magnussen's quicker, he'll be pushing the Ferrari.
And medium tyres going on to the Red Bull, not the softs, it's the medium. To the end of the race, well, there's a long way to go to the end of this race.
So we're not even halfway through. Oh, look at that. Verstappen really struggling with grip at the end and the exit of the pit lane. They're trying to get some purchase from the tyres on the wet pit lane exit there.
So push hard now.
So Verstappen back out again. He didn't have a new set of mediums. He had a new set of softs if he wanted it.
I tell you what, he's struggling to get those fired up as well. Really struggling.
Cracking pit stop by Red Bull, 2 seconds exactly. They did a 1.96, didn't they, at the last race?
Leclerc tickling the throttle there because he knows where he's been out there before, but to an extent. And he just understeered. The front just slid clean off the road. So his advantage now on those inters has fallen away. It's brought him back into contention, Leclerc, to an extent, but he's now lost that advantage.
So, Danny Kvyat coming in, Lando Norris coming in. We just saw his teammate Carlos Sainz really struggling out of the final corner, and he almost lost it there again. And Lance Stroll coming in for Racing Point. Lando Norris, power slide out of the pits, and almost ahead of Danny Kvyat during the pit stop, but not to be. It's soft tyres that are going on at Mercedes for whoever's coming in, and it's Valtteri Bottas coming in. So, sorry, medium tyres. So I wonder if the teams are thinking, Martin, the overcut is going to be stronger than the undercut. Has Verstappen just been off the track? I wonder if Verstappen's just had a problem through the final few corners there, because he's going very, very slowly indeed. And it was a big cheer from the Dutch fans. But I wonder what they were cheering for. I'm not sure they were cheering for much.
He's had the spin there. Oh, look at that. Underneath it, doesn't do the underneath the car, and all the little aero pieces are a lot of good. Just no grip at all. They won't fire up.
I don't... He had a new set of soft tyres available to him, Max Verstappen. I'm not quite sure why the medium were the better option.
They put Bottas on the mediums as well, didn't they? There it is. They're obviously they're more durable compound. Therefore,
Norris has gone off as well on the slicks.
That looks like a technical issue there, doesn't it? Looks like he's just retiring from the race now.
Oh, no.
Oh, we got another spinner there.
That's Lance Stroll. So both drivers going onto the slick tyres, and this is their lap out of the pits.
I've lost power. Gear 6 gone. I've lost power.
So Norris has lost power.
Gear 6 sounds like it might be hydraulic, doesn't it? Okay.
Wretched afternoon. This is turning into McLaren.
What will they do with Leclerc and Hamilton when they come in? You've got to put soft tyres on from what we're seeing out there. And Leclerc picks now, so we're about to find out.
And Stroll's got going
soft
again.
Tyres for Leclerc.
Soft tyres for Charles Leclerc. Hamilton continues to lead this race. Charles Leclerc is in second place at the moment, and Charles Leclerc is going to keep that second place even after this pit stop, because Bottas and Verstappen are just coming around the final corner now.
Virtual safety cars out there at the moment, so another cheap stop for Charles Leclerc. But now this is going to be so difficult for them, going slowly, 40% slower, and keeping any kind of reasonable temperature in these tyres will be easy for Leclerc, having just pitted. And they need to go, if he can get rid of that VSC quickly, it might work a treat for him again.
So Martin, the Mercedes pit crew have stayed out. I wonder, would you bring, on the virtual safety car, would you bring Lewis Hamilton in now as the race leader to protect his lead over Charles Leclerc?
You have to, don't you? You have to use the cheap pit stop because you're in the pit lane doing 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers per hour, while your rivals are at reduced speed out on the track.
Here they come out of the garage with a set of tyres. We're watching Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton is tip-toeing his way around the Sachs curve under the virtual safety car, of course. But he's going to come in and get a brand new set of tyres. Ted Kravitz, he's coming your way in a few moments' time.
I'm sure he is, but just to underline how brilliantly Hamilton has been driving. I mean, I know he's great in these conditions anyway, but we haven't really mentioned it, have we, Crofty? Because he's been so comfortable out on sort of pretty knackered old intermediate tyres, having been one of the first to put them on. Hamilton has been driving absolutely superbly. Sainz passes me on a fresh set of Inters.
And this could be interesting, Ted, because the virtual safety car ended just as Lewis Hamilton came in. That is a longer stop than you'd normally expect. Leclerc's going through turn 14.
And a long stop anyway. It was a long stop. The right front wasn't ready for some reason.
Charles Leclerc coming now round. Oh, Charles Leclerc's gone out, gone right and gone out. Leclerc has gone into the barriers at the penultimate turn, and a second Ferrari in the space of 2 races here in the German Grand Prix has ended up into the barriers. It was Sebastian Vettel last year. It's Charles Leclerc this year, and that car looks beached. And his hopes of a great result this afternoon have slid away, with his car sliding away too.
Just as he was staring at a victory opportunity. It's the same, but he's been over there twice already.
No! He just got on to the slick tyres, and it's still very, very wet in that final part of the circuit. And Charles Leclerc, what desperate luck for him. They're going to pit his teammate again, because we've got a proper safety car, I think, now. The actual safety car has been deployed, not the virtual safety car. Leclerc is utterly furious with himself. So this is out of the Sachs curve. No grip really there. Try and keep off the curves if you can.
Oh, he had the tiny bit of understeer, and now it's just going to skate straight into the barriers. It wasn't exactly pushing that hard, it just snapped at the back. He had to countersteer to turn into the slide, and now he's on the skating ring, the drag strip, and it'd have been better hitting reverse in that moment.
He's run 4 consecutive podiums, and it looked like being a 5th consecutive podium has ended. Intermediate tyres for Sebastian Vettel. Ferrari now decided it is too wet out there for slick tyres. Ted, down to you.
What's astonishing now is seeing Gasly in.
2 seconds, Ted.
Yeah, we can't rely on the radar. We are boxing them.
And I think Lewis Hamilton's gone off as well, but he's carried on.
But he's lost his front wing, hasn't he?
There's damage to the front wing, certainly. Hamilton went off in exactly the same spot. As you can see, managed to keep going. Our race leader now into the pits needs a new front wing. Valtteri Bottas takes the lead of this race.
They're not ready for him. They weren't expecting him. They didn't know it's happened. They had no idea that it's happened.
Well, they weren't ready for him because he's only come in because of that accident. And I think now they're going to look to get maybe intermediate tyres on as well. They're scrambling around all the while. Lewis Hamilton's losing out. Bottas takes the lead. Verstappen now goes into 2nd place. Hulkenberg has just pitted again and moves up into 3rd place, whilst they still work on the car of Lewis Hamilton, who was cruising, it seemed, out in front. But in 1 split second, Leclerc goes, and Hamilton's chances of victory looks like they're going as well.
They've got to make sure they get the right tyres on it, that they're not Bottas's tyres, for example.
Correct.
We've got a mixture of tyres on that car at the moment. And now we've got Inters back on it now. That's what they're doing. They're changing. They changed their mind on the tyres. And of course, when you've got to change the nose, you can't use the front jack, because the front jack jacks up on the nose itself.
Alex Albon goes through into 4th place, ahead of Hamilton in 5th. Carlos Sainz runs 6th. And then 7th, Kimi Räikkönen, and Sebastian Vettel right on his tail as well. Lance Stroll is a lap down. You can see him in the picture there. He's now back on the intermediate tyres again. And continuing in the points, Gasly, who's up to 9th, and Giovinazzi, who's 10th.
Everyone is going through Easter's lowest place, so box for the intermediates.
So we're still behind the safety car. There he is, Bernd Maylander called into action once again. And Valtteri Bottas, I tell you what, if he pits now, Max Verstappen might just take the lead of this German Grand Prix.
Well, does he need inters anyway? He needs probably, because he's been really struggling, hasn't he? Just like Bottas has. And they can see how easy it is to smash the car up. But what will they do? Again, it's a cheap pit stop, but under these circumstances, it puts you at the back of the queue. That's the bollard that Lewis Hamilton didn't manage to go around because he was recovering. And look, Bottas is struggling even in the pit lane.
And Max Verstappen stays out and now takes the lead of the German Grand Prix on his intermediate tyres. Bottas nearly collected the bollard on his way into the pit lane. Inters go on for Valtteri Bottas. The stewards are looking at Lewis Hamilton for coming into the pits the wrong side of the bollard.
Yeah, as I just mentioned, he was recovering from the track. Let's see what they say about that. But you suppose, as we saw with Hulkenberg, he's supposed to duck underneath that bollard.
So I'm thinking, Martin, that in all the confusion and all the carnage with Lewis Hamilton's pit stop, Max Verstappen stopped the lap previous. So actually, he's in a very good position now on a new set of the intermediate tyre. So much going on in this race, and we're trying to keep up with all of it, but we've had 51 minutes of this race so far. We're not even at half distance, and I, for one, am glad about that, because I'd like this to go to extra time.
It's breathless, isn't it? The race, obviously, it will be timed out in 2 hours. That shouldn't be an issue. But depends how many safety cars there are. What a changeable conditions, extraordinary. But here we go. So Lewis, skatey that is, and just a little clout of the barrier, but he had some momentum when he hit the barrier, and now he obviously hasn't been able to go around the bollard. He'd have to go the wrong way down the racetrack to do that. And he's bringing a damaged car in, so it'd be a bit crazy to say you can go around the bollard when you come in from. You'd rather do that than go round the track with a damaged car. But we'll see what they say.
Let's just take stock here. Max Verstappen leads the German Grand Prix. There's a few guys and girls amongst that lot who are quite happy about that. Valtteri Bottas was leading, but he's now behind Nico Hulkenberg. 167th Grand Prix for Nico Hulkenberg, never been on the podium before. In his home Grand Prix, which produced his best race finish last year, he's currently in 2nd place and looking quite tidy. It must be said in these conditions, they still need to get rid of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari stricken by the side of the track. Behind Valtteri Bottas in 3rd, Alex Albon, I mentioned, had slipped through into 4th place. Alex Albon in the Toro Rosso is 4th.
How bad is the damage to the car? We need to have a look. We don't think other from it.
Hamilton has been off and lost the lead and is now down in 5th. Carlos Sainz has been off a couple of times and he's down in 6th at the moment. Charles Leclerc is one of 4 drivers who are out of this race, and this is why.
Yeah, a little tiny bit of oversteer. Now he's straight out.
Four mediums on this track doesn't work.
designed to be the best. They met enemies face to face, endured tragedies and enjoyed victories. They went down in history due to the bravery of their crews. They are the ships that deserve to be called naval legends. In this episode, watch Yamato, life and death of a legendary battleship. By spring 1945, it became clear that only a miracle could save Japan from defeat in World War II. The land of the rising sun had lost virtually all its naval and air forces, and US troops were already landing on the Japanese islands. On the morning of April 6th, Japan's legendary battleship Yamato sailed off to fight her last battle. The last bit of hope the Japanese possessed rested with this steel giant, the largest and most powerful battleship of the time.
That naval operation in the Pacific, dubbed Tenichi-Go, Heaven 1, was a dangerous mission, but the faith in Yamato was almost religious, and the Japanese believed luck would go hand in hand with the ship.
The history of battleship Yamato began 10 years before the ship's legendary last mission. In October 1935, Japanese engineers put together a first draft of the famous naval giant. Unlike the Americans, whose ships were limited to a size that could pass through the Panama Canal, nothing restricted the Japanese from building ships of a large size and displacement, and arming them as heavily as possible. Japanese designers set out to make battleships powerful enough to outmatch all existing foreign counterparts, and any ships that would be built in the upcoming years.
The production facilities behind me were the Kure Naval Arsenal in those days. Its dockyard saw the birth of battleship Yamato. Her keel was laid in 1937, and the ship was completed in 1941. Yamato was the heaviest battleship in the world. Back then, the total construction expenses amounted to 130 million yen. That would be over 1 trillion yen, $8 billion in today's prices. Initially, Japan planned to build a total of 4 Yamato-class ships. However, the Pacific War began, and after completing the second ship, Musashi, Japan stopped building the third ship, Shinano, and never started the fourth one. Eventually, Shinano was converted to an aircraft carrier.
Yamato is the ancient name for Japan, meaning great harmony. Strict secrecy was maintained throughout her construction. A high fence of mats surrounded the dockyard. All engineers swore a solemn oath of non-disclosure, and the workers going in and out were compared with their photos. Japanese shipbuilders certainly had something big to hide. Total displacement, 72,808 tons. Length, 863 feet. Beam, 128 feet. Draft, 35 feet. Armament, main battery. 3 turrets, each having 40 SK Mod 94 guns. Caliber, 18-inch. Secondary battery. 2 turrets, each having 3 Type 3 guns. Caliber, 6-inch. Anti-aircraft artillery, 12 coaxial Type 89 guns. Caliber, 5-inch. 50
Cook
triple
style,
barrel
you mean
and 2
coaxial?
single barrel Type 96
Cook
automatic
style.
cannons. Caliber
Coaxial
0.98
guns, dude.
inch. Air group 7 seaplanes, reconnaissance planes and spotting aircraft. Armor main belt 11 to 16 inch. Main turrets 7 to 26 inch. Conning tower 12 to 20 inch. Power plant 4 Campon turbines and 12 Campon RO boilers. Power 154,000 shaft horsepower. Maximum speed over 27 knots. Operational range 7,200 nautical miles at 16 knots.
So this game is like it's like a self-contained paradox. Because you need coins in order to purchase the upgrades, but you need the upgrades in order to win the coins. You can see I'm going to pay $250,000 coins for +1 reliability, so I don't think that's worth it. It's 128 for 1 arrow.
Yamato's key features are her main turrets, each having 3 18-inch guns. The guns can fire shells weighing almost 1.5 tons with a muzzle speed of 2,600 feet per second. A gun turret, including the barbette, weighed 3,000 tons. It could contain over 150 men.
Yamato's main turrets were guided by a fire control system, consisting of a director that provided parameters of fire, rangefinders, and electromechanical calculators, a form of early computers. It was a state-of-the-art system for the time. Lack of fire control radars for engaging surface targets was compensated for by top-notch grouping of salvos. This gave the Japanese firing capability on par with that of the world's leading navies. The ship's secondary battery consisted of 2 turrets, each having 3 6-inch guns. The guns featured excellent ballistic characteristics and could penetrate the armor of a typical cruiser. However, their rate of fire was pretty low. When commissioned, Yamato had 6 coaxial 5-inch anti-aircraft guns for long-range engagement, plus short-range anti-aircraft artillery consisted of 8 triple-barrel 0.9-inch cannons. The number of EAA guns was constantly built up during the war.
The 5-inch anti-aircraft guns and the 0.98-inch guns had different ranges of fire. So if an enemy aircraft flew into this gap, neither of the guns was able to effectively intercept it. Furthermore, the 5-inch guns had relatively low traverse speed and poor elevation and depression characteristics, while the 0.98-inch guns failed to fire at the declared rate of 14 rounds per minute if the elevation was high or low.
Yamato enjoyed the heaviest armor in shipbuilding history. Its U.S. analog, battleship Iowa, had armor that was on average 4 inches thinner. The armor belt of the Japanese Giant formed a citadel that covered slightly over half of her waterline length. The most protected part was the ship's conning tower.
The weapon systems became literally giant. The Japanese built a super battleship that was like 10 or 15 others put together. But the problem was that it did not pay off. You can build one Yamato-class battleship, but she would still be destroyed when facing 2, 3, or 10 US battleships. There are still such characteristics as mobility, quantity, quality, salvos per side.
Yamato was commissioned in late 1941. In her first mission, the Battle of Midway, Yamato served as the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet. During the battle, on June 4 through 6, 1942, Yamato did not fire a single shot and was used only as an HQ ship.
The Japanese military command was definitely saving their 2 best battleships for an upcoming major battle against the US fleet. As a result, Japanese seamen started to feel disappointed with their flagship. They even made up a saying that the world's 3 most useless things were China's Great Wall, the Egyptian pyramids, and the battleship Yamato.
It was not until autumn 1944 that the Japanese naval giant fought its first real battle. Together with her sister ship, Sun, Yamato attacked US landing craft near the island of Leyte. In that battle, Yamato was only slightly damaged, demonstrated her power, and recovered the status of an unsinkable giant. The situation in the Pacific theater had changed by that time.
progress in military technology basically follows the laws of philosophy. When making a new weapon system, designers in the military usually seek to enhance its specifications, bigger caliber, thicker armor, etc. Then they come to a dead end, where they are no longer developing the Navy, but improving a separate weapon type within the existing limits. A radical change is carrier-borne aviation, and later, missile systems. But Yamato is the peak in the construction of battleships. It is not about progress, it is about reaching the peak. In 1945, World War II reached Japan's home islands. The command of the Japanese Combined Fleet made a Bushido-style decision. Yamato, with the help of a light cruiser and 8 destroyers, was to defend the island of Okinawa and prevent the US troops from getting any further inland, or fight to the end and finish her journey gloriously.
See? It's like such a slap in the fucking face for them to even do that. Oh, you're gonna qualify 24th. Next race, you're gonna qualify 5th. What fucking sense does that make? This game is so fucking stupid.
To intercept the flagship of the Japanese Combined Fleet. The Americans would not miss the chance to destroy the symbol of Japan's naval power. As early as 10 a.m., the first US squadrons took off from 5 heavy and 4 light aircraft carriers, located about 300 miles away from Yamato. A total of 227 aircraft took part in the destruction of the Japanese force. The battle began at 12:34. 4 aerial bombs hit Yamato, taking out a 5-inch gun and several automatic cannons. In just 20 minutes, 2 more bombs struck the battleship and a torpedo hit her port side. In response, Yamato fired her anti-aircraft weapons. At 14:02, the Americans launched the last attack on the wounded, but still combat-capable Yamato. It was a demonstrative execution. 4 torpedoes, 3 to the port side and 1 to the starboard side, destroyed the ship's damage control center. Yamato stopped moving and started listing to port more and more every minute. And when this huge ship capsized, a monstrous explosion erupted. The pride and hope of the Japanese fleet went under. Together with the ship, 3,000 crew members were lost, including the commanders of the Japanese force and the ship. For the Japanese, Yamato still remains a symbol of the nation's might, that fell in battle like a true samurai. The city where the legendary battleship was built opened a museum, whose centerpiece is an 85-foot model of Yamato.
The Kure Municipal Museum of Naval History and Science was built 10 years ago to preserve the rich naval history of the city. Now it is known as the Yamato Museum. The exhibits reflect the naval history of Kure. In other words, the history of naval affairs and technologies. The museum has become quite popular. Fans of battleships come here from all over the country. However, we should remember that it was originally dedicated to all kinds of shipbuilding.
The violent explosion that finished the destruction of Yamato was caused by the detonation of her main battery magazines. However, there is plenty of debate about the reason for that tremendous explosion. The answer is probably hidden on the bottom of the ocean. So far, researchers have been unable to lift what is left from the giant battleship.
It is true that Yamato had a number of drawbacks. Like her sister ship, Musashi, the battleship was sunk as a result of airstrikes. The key reason for that was the ship's fundamental lack of ability to resist massive air attacks.
Yamato remains the largest and most powerful battleship in history. For every person who takes interest in the history of military ships, Yamato embodies military might. Born to terrify and crush enemies, this formidable steel giant managed to glorify her name even as she was defeated. She represented a pinnacle in large battleship design, one that will probably never be surpassed. And in that sense, Yamato will always remain a symbol and a legend. Designed to be the best. They met enemies face to face, endured tragedies and enjoyed victories. They went down in history due to the bravery of their crews. They are the ships that deserve to be called naval legends. In this episode, Battleship Iowa, a trump card that was never played. In the 1930s, the whole world was crazy about two things: swing music and guns. The passion that politicians and industrial moguls showed to the latter had all the signs of gigantomania. By finding legal loopholes in international arms control treaties and conventions, or simply ignoring them, countries were constantly building new and unprecedented weapon systems for both land and sea. They were becoming bigger, heavier, and more powerful. The global arms race involved the most advanced technologies of the time and huge financial resources.
In order to compete with any of our potential enemies, it was felt necessary to increase the size of our ships. So the Iowa was a 45,000-ton battleship. The prior ships had been less, the South Dakota class and the North Carolina class.
A battleship is basically a floating artillery battery, so her size directly depends on the size of her primary guns.
The 16-inch main batteries on Battleship Iowa, of which there are three turrets. Each turret has 3 guns. So everything about the ship design is structured around being a platform for the 16-inch guns.
It's like small arms. There is a common misbelief that the pistol is designed first and then the cartridge. No, the Defense Ministry always orders the cartridge. The same for ships. The enemy has 15 inches and 12 inches. Let's make 16 inches because we already have some of the technologies. But let's not make it 40, but 50 calibers long. And they made a 16-inch gun. So the ship was built again.
Oh, look at this. It's the silliest incident. Nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do. Just carrying a touch too much momentum. It's reminiscent of Vettel's crash last year, really, in a way, isn't it? Low speed, and Hopeless say they've been better hitting reverse as it happened. And because he slapped into it sideways, Lewis hit it and had a little bit of forward movement and just carried on. So Lewis is under investigation now, fully, for coming the wrong side of the pit bollard. So they may say, look, you should have gone around with the damage gun. You can see a piece missing off the top, one of those sort of wings missing off the top of the chassis of Lewis Hamilton.
Well, this is just about everything, and I think there's probably still a bit more coming. After Hamilton, Sainz, Raikkonen, Vettel's in 8th at the moment, and everyone running intermediate tyres, just to let you know. After Vettel, Gasly, Giovinazzi completing the top 10. Fiat, Magnussen, Grosjean, and now the lap cars can unlap themselves.
Only halfway through the race,
The lap cars can unlap themselves. That's Stroll, Kubica, and Russell. Russell ahead of Kubica, ahead of Stroll at the moment. Whoa. Let's take a pause.
Yeah, just thinking through. I'm trying to think when Verstappen came in for the interview.
He came in whilst we were watching Lewis Hamilton in the pit. So
29.
Lap 29. So what we were focusing on Hamilton, the camera was focusing on Hamilton. Verstappen slipped in and made his pit stop. Wasn't that a timely pit stop for Max Verstappen, who a couple of laps before Hamilton and Leclerc did their business had his own spin as well. It was looking hopeless for him, but now he's in the lead of the race. The FIA stewards, the four of them that preside over this German Grand Prix, and they've still got a few more decisions to make, haven't they, this afternoon? Anthony, to you at race control.
Yeah, it was really confusing at that time. I've just been watching it back, and Verstappen, because of that spin the lap before, he was convinced enough to come into the pits just to put it on anyway under the virtual safety car. Lewis was on his way as well to doing the same thing, and he was saying on the radio, I don't think slicks is the right thing. He'll be kicking himself. He knew in his instinct that it was the wrong tyre to be on.
Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. We are on lap 33 of the German Grand Prix, which is a quite prestigious moment, Martin Brundle. We can now declare the first half of the season well and truly over.
And what happened to that halfway through this season already? Safety cars in this lap, they cleared the Ferrari out of the barriers, and the advertising, ironically, that used to say Mercedes-Benz before the Ferrari hits it. So safety car in this lap. Alex Albon has never driven the Formula 1 car in the rain, and he currently sits in 4th position.
For a team that have one podium finish in their history. Sebastian Vettel's win at a very wet Monza back in 2008. A Toro Rosso team that made their debut at Bahrain 2006. Toro Rosso team at a 258 race start. Could they possibly get a second podium today?
Don't count Hamilton out winning this race either by a long stretch. He's in 5th place at the moment, and we know how fast he's been through this Grand Prix. So he's still in the hunt. As long as he's only lost a little bit of aero off the front there, he'll still have enough pace.
All the stewards decide he's not going to get a penalty for going to the wrong side of that bollard. That is definitely hanging over him. Right, should we go racing again? I don't know. Rather enjoyed the chance to take a breath or two, but I want to get back on with the action. I'm sure wherever you're watching around the world, you do too. And if you're Max Verstappen, you definitely want to get on with the action. You're quite glad to see the back of Bernd Maylander, maybe for the time being, maybe till the end of the race. Verstappen leads them over the line then from Nico Hülkenberg in his home Grand Prix, running in 2nd place. Valtteri Bottas started 3rd, is running 3rd. Alex Albon has Lewis Hamilton behind him. Then Carlos Sainz, Sebastian Vettel's making a move on Pierre Gasly's going to stay behind the Red Bull for just a little bit longer. And Gasly's going to try and get some heat into those tyres once again as Giovinazzi now coming in Sebastian Vettel and Danny Kvyat. And then we've got Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean scrapping away in the 2 Hasses right at the rear of the field as well. Onwards, down towards the hairpin we go. Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Albon, Sainz thinking about a move on Hamilton. Is he going to go down the inside? Not on this occasion. Vettel's going to look down the inside on Pierre Gasly. There's a 5-second time penalty for Lewis Hamilton for going the wrong side of the bollard. Vettel gets past Pierre Gasly and makes his way up into 8th place.
Yeah, Gasly just passed him. That's right. So he's got that position back again. And Lewis Hamilton now on the rookie Alex Albon, but he's carrying that 5-second penalty, and that could be the difference between him winning this race or not, Lewis Hamilton.
If he pits again, he'll have to wait 5 seconds before they service the car. If he doesn't pit, they add it to his race time when we get the checkered flag, which might come at the end of 64 laps, and it might even come at the end of the next hour and 2 minutes.
The safety car worked beautifully, didn't it, for Vettel? We were talking about how he was over half a minute off the lead at one point. It's all worked out. He's now on the right tyres, in position in 8th, but only 6 seconds off the lead.
Gasly's struggling once again, trying to get heat into those tyres, and he's being swamped by cars around him. Albon's fought off the pressure of Lewis Hamilton on that lap. We're looking back now. Giovinazzi gaining on Gasly, and Fiat has Grosjean just behind him. Magnussen as well just behind Grosjean. They've unlapped themselves, all the cars now as well. And out in front, Max Verstappen continues to pull away from Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Verstappen's checked out up front. All they've got to be careful of is the skating rink in the last two corners.
All that skating rink there going through turn 3 and 4 for Alex Albon. That was a bit twitchy, wasn't it? The Toro Rosso, Danny Kvyat, down in 11th. John near enough to have a dive down the inside. Not on this particular occasion. There's still a bit of wet, bit of dampness on the track. It's not completely bone dry as yet.
I think they'll start burning things out very quickly in these conditions unless it starts raining again.
Could be right. They might be hunting for a bit of dampness, and they definitely get it
And
towards
Perez.
the conditions out in front
Next race,
into the
we're gonna
stadium
qualify right
section.
next
We
to
go
each
Ted
other.
Kravitz to you.
Both their drivers have just stayed on the wet tyres. They haven't been tempted to put on the dry tyres at all. In fact, there are only 2 of 4 drivers who weren't tempted by the slicks. Turned out to be the right thing to do. Hülkenberg, that's why he's there. Sainz, Russell and Kubica were the only ones who didn't run slicks in that period. It was the right call.
It's costing Hamilton bundles of time. Start behind Albon's Toro Rosso. Hamilton now 11 seconds off the lead.
And it's also not getting any better for Hamilton in the stewards' room potentially as well, because he's under investigation once again for driving unnecessarily slowly whilst the safety car was deployed. Now, was he backing up the pack, or was he tiptoeing around waiting for his team to get ready to come out? The stewards, the drivers have a lap that they must adhere to. Hamilton's going to have a go on Albon, is he? He's just a bit too far back on this occasion. We'll switch through and take that very tight inside line out of the hairpin. Lewis Hamilton getting past Alex Albon, been held up by the Toro Rosso, going wheel to wheel, and then ahead is now Valtteri Bottas right on the tail of Nico Hülkenberg as well. Whatever Hamilton was doing behind the safety car, the stewards, I don't think like it. That's why they're looking into it.
And that's normally a slam dunk, that kind of thing, because a computer generated that somewhere as a variation that's popped up. Is not correct.
Yeah, they have a lap. They can't go any slower than that minimum time. And the minute you do, it just triggers things. And now the stewards have all the angles, all the data and throttle traces and this bit and that to look through and make their decision. Out in front, Verstappen is now 7 seconds clear, and loving the conditions and loving the feeling of being out on his own, I'm sure. Bottas, with DRS assistance now, is within a second of Nico Hülkenberg.
And Hamilton is faster than Verstappen, who's out front. So now Hamilton's in clear air. We're seeing his true pace again. We know he's carrying a 5-second penalty. Will he get another penalty as well? We haven't seen. I'm not entirely sure what that one's about, if I'm honest. Maybe we'll see a replay of that or something. But very slowly, isn't it? So it won't be that exciting.
It won't be a slow motion.
It might be informative.
There goes Bottas on Nico Hülkenberg to the hairpin down the inside. Hülkenberg gives that one up, doesn't really fight it. Such was the pace difference between the Mercedes and the Renault. That's worked out beautifully for Verstappen. That buffer between the Red Bull and the 2 Mercedes, or the buffer that is Nico Hülkenberg, has allowed him to pull clear. Now Bottas can start the charge after the Red Bull as well, and Hamilton is right on Hülkenberg's tail, and they've rather dropped Alex Albon in 5th. And Albon might be coming under pressure from Carlos Sainz in 6th soon, and Sainz has got Raikkonen and Vettel and Gasly and Giovinazzi for company. They're all queuing up behind him as well. And oh dear, never far away from a shower in this part of the world today.
Nico Hülkenberg is
slow
still
Grosjean
just
is
in that
going.
tantalisingly close podium
Same
position.
car, same tires,
So want
same
Nico Hülkenberg to finish on the
setup.
He deserves a podium finish. He's been on the pole
And
position
Grosjean
in
is driving like he has
Brazil
a
in his
flat tire.
rookie season. He's led races, and it hasn't worked out for him. He's still yet to stand on the podium in Formula One. Maybe, just maybe. It says on the radar, Ted Kravitz might be the person to answer this, that it's raining at the moment. So I don't know, Ted, if you've got your upturned palm and you can tell us, is it raining?
Yes, but not very hard, and not very hard in the pit lane as well. So I think the Inter is the right tyre to be on. I don't think anyone is going to be tempted by the slicks, but I must say, if you look out your commentary box window, it's quite bright though, isn't it, Crofty?
Yeah,
To the right it is, yes.
And I noticed that some of the drivers are starting to dip their tyres in the wetter part of the track to cool them down.
Hulkenberg's been passed by another Mercedes.
Yeah.
Hamilton is through, and Hamilton is back up into the podium places. Sorry, Martin, I interrupted you there.
Yeah, no, it was a pass for podium position, so well worth interrupting. But yes, I noticed when they can, they try to dip their tyres a little bit in the wetter part of the track to cool the tyres.
And we can
That's
see.
A long way behind.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, now Grosjean's going much faster.
That was a mugging. Miles behind.
Well, I think Hulkenberg once again knew that his fight wasn't necessarily with either of the Mercedes there.
Yeah.
Wanted to turn in, but the car was alongside him, not to try and defend the position, but just to get out of that corner. Here's a real cue that Sebastian Vettel is finding himself in at the moment. And Pierre Gasly, now he's switched the tyres back on again and got some heat and temperature into them, is gaining on Sebastian Vettel.
I don't know if Vettel still can. We heard about a turbo issue early on, but he's not got any pace. Vettel is still, once again, he's restarted in 8th, remains in 8th.
Well, I wonder, he was talking about problems, the team were talking about problems once again with the turbo that cost him so dear in qualifying yesterday, and he was having issues at the early part of this race. Seems like yesterday the early part of this race, but are they affecting his general pace in the race, I wonder? 9 seconds the lead now that Max Verstappen has over Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton gaining a little bit on his teammate. He was about 2.5, 3 seconds back when he overtook Hulkenberg.
We expect the rain to slowly reduce.
So it's not raining very hard at the moment, and it's going to get a little bit better, and you'll need your sunglasses by the end of the day.
Sainz up in 6th place. Didn't seem that long ago we saw him in the barriers at in the final corner, isn't it? Reversing out.
Yeah, his first couple of laps, he took more runoff area than he did tarmac, it seemed. He's been spinning off, just avoiding the barriers. He might still come home, Carlos Sainz, for a 6th place for McLaren to match what he did at Silverstone.
The safety car really annulled the time he spent reversing out of the barrier and the gravel. He didn't quite make the gravel, actually, did he? So this a new fastest lap of the entire Grand Prix out front.
That's the thing, you just never give up though in Formula One. You never know what's going to come next. And
like this. Oh, we got another one wide. Look onto the ice rink.
And that is the Alfa Romeo. It is the Alfa Romeo of Kimi. Kimi Raikkonen goes very wide indeed and has lost places and might, I dare say, get passed by his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi in a few moments as well. Rare to see Kimi Raikkonen making mistakes. The conditions obviously treacherous in parts of the track here.
And the grooves in the inters are just giving them enough grip out there to stay out of the barriers. It was the slicks that just skated straight to the barriers.
Oh.
So once again had to counter steer into a slide.
What he did there so well was as the car's sliding, finding grip, and even though it took him towards the gravel, he actually had the grip to avoid the barrier.
That's typical Finnish driver territory, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit of gravel, a bit of oily, watery tarmac, and Kimi was on top of it.
Right. Lap 40 of 64 here. Kimi's making mistakes. Lewis Hamilton's got a 5-second time penalty. Max Verstappen is leading the race. Charles Leclerc could have been on for a race win, but he's out of it, along with Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez. I think it was an exhaust issue in the end for Daniel Ricciardo. Nico Rosberg, who's won here at Hockenheim before, world champion, of course, and with us this weekend. I dare say, Nico, I'd like you to summarise your highlights of the opening 40 laps, but we've only got another 23 laps for you to do that. And look, there is the Renault of Nico Hulkenberg, who you sat down with just yesterday to talk about his home Grand Prix, and he's ending his home Grand Prix in the barriers, and another car in the barriers at the final corner. Oh, what a race this is turning into.
That'll be another safety car there, and it's exactly the same situation. He's dug a hole like he's building a sandcastle on the beach on a Sunday afternoon, and then presumably it's going to be the same thing. A little bit of oversteer. That's just plain understeered off, hasn't it? And then that's caught him out. And then he actually hitting the brakes was the worst thing he could do at that point.
Nico Rosberg, what a feeling, and what a horrendous feeling that must be in your home Grand Prix. As for the second year running, a German driver crashes out in their home Grand Prix.
That's so terrible for him. I was just about to say, like, what a phenomenal run he's having. he would so have deserved to finally maybe have a chance even for the podium, because we still don't know what penalties Lewis is going to have. Oh my God, that's heartbreaking. Poor guy.
Oh, it is heartbreaking. It is a race of heartbreaks today. Charles Leclerc, for instance, was on for a magnificent finish before he went into the barriers at the same corner.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, everybody, even Nico now, was just struggling with the rear end, going into that sequence of corners, and then they go out onto your famous ice rink, and then they hit the wall. I'm still looking forward to Lewis coming up to Bottas now, though. That's going to be a really, really cool internal team battle there coming up.
I think we're in for mega excitement in the last few laps. Nico, thank you. Into the pits comes Max Verstappen. Intermediate tyres going on, Ted Kravitz.
It is, but it's a really close call. It's such a close call. Just before Hulkenberg went off, his engineer was saying if there's a safety car now, do you think we could go to slicks? Because the radar, Crofty, says there's not going to be any more rain between now and the end of the race. So what do they do? Better safe than sorry, Verstappen. Good call, I think, that.
Yeah.
Be on the right tyre at the right time.
And if you don't lose, which he didn't, he's on a fresh set of intermediate tyres, where those behind him have done a few laps. For instance, Bottas, lap 29, Hamilton lap 29 when they came in. Inter's going on for Sebastian Vettel. Is that another problem? And that front right with a wheel gun there for Sebastian Vettel this time around. Oh, Nico Hulkenberg never retired from a German Grand Prix, running fourth, doing superbly well. Renault salvaging a decent weekend, but not to be.
He'll be frustrated with himself there, because he kind of collected the car up and got back on the throttle.
What's the reason? We didn't put new tyres?
So this we'd have to serve 5-second penalty, which would have dropped us behind other cars.
So better to stay on those tyres at this moment than drop behind a load of cars. And when we do get going again, Lewis, we need you to extend an advantage over the car behind you and make up that 5 seconds.
Double whammy, but we've seen how good it is to have new Inters on, gaining 5 seconds, but the point they're making there is we'd have put you into a load of traffic. It's the right front again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't really go against the peg, but there's another replay of it. It's not gone on, and there's something going wrong on the right front of the Ferrari stop.
Just wasn't locked into the right place. They had to give it one extra shove.
Well, that plays beautifully into Verstappen's hands now.
Well, the only thing that goes against Max Verstappen is he's lost a 9.5 second advantage, but on fresh tyres, he can pull away from the field.
Well, we've just seen the advantage that gives you, isn't it? You know, you start finding Leclerc 3.5 seconds a lap.
Yeah.
You know, you're very quickly gathering that back again, and you're opening up your window of options down the road if it does rain again. That's the important thing. You've got more tread on your tyres.
So the safety car once again. This is the third time we've had the safety car out. I haven't actually been counting, to be honest. There's been so much going on. We've had virtual safety cars. The safety car itself, Bernd Maylander, he's earning his money today.
Yeah, and of course Verstappen would have lost that lead anyway under a full safety car. It's only under the virtual safety car are they sort of neutralised. Under the safety car, they all get put back into a queue, into a line, and off we go again.
So this will help those at the back of the field catch up a bit. I think Kevin Magnussen's taken the opportunity to pit for fresher tyres as well, but pretty much a free pit stop for him. His teammate Romain Grosjean does go ahead of him, but Russell and Stroll, the Kubica, are a little further behind.
They're mighty pieces of equipment, those guns, the wheel guns. Must do another feature on them, actually.
They're quite heavy, aren't they?
The amount of investment that goes into those, that's why we're seeing sub 2 second pit stops. Absolutely extraordinary.
If you like a power tool, they are a great power tool. They really are. And this was Nico Hulkenberg skating away.
So he got back on the throttle because he felt he got it under control, realised he hadn't, and hit the brakes. I think if he'd have left the wheels just turning, he may have found enough grip. Easy to say, not that easy to do. When you're heading towards the barriers, you tend to grab some brake.
And there is Nico Hulkenberg, who was possibly on for a fourth place finish in Formula One. Who knows, it might have been a podium as well if someone had problems further ahead. But here's Renault, and Renault's first official double retirement since Mexico 2017. They didn't see the checkered flag, of course, in Bahrain.
My tyres aren't in particularly great shape. Okay, copy Lewis.
But they were both classified that day. Their first double retirement since Mexico 2017. Hamilton not liking the state of his tyres.
Larry knows that Verstappen's got a huge advantage here, and he's carrying penalties. Verstappen's pitted 4 times in this race so far. So far.
Who's the last person to pit 5 times and win a race? Michael Schumacher in Hungary all those years ago, Ted?
Yeah, it must have been. That shot of Hulkenberg is the saddest on one of those camping chairs.
Yeah.
It's one of the saddest things I've seen since, well, about 20 laps before when Charles Leclerc, and that's the saddest thing I've seen since then.
I thought you were going to say the saddest thing I've seen since the Titanic. Not the ship, the movie. That was sad.
No, well, Mika Häkkinen crying in the bushes at Monza was also one of the saddest things I've seen several times ago. Yes, we have had several people in. George Russell was racing Lance Stroll in the Racing Point out of the pit lane, so they're both on fresh inters as well. But they've finished. They can't put any more fresh inters on anybody else because they've run out by now. So Vettel pitted, Grosjean pitted, Magnussen pitted, Russell and Stroll all for fresh inters, and of course Max Verstappen. We've already said that.
They have an allocation of 4 intermediates and 3 wet tyres for a Grand Prix weekend. So they are limited on that allocation. The only thing that's got any grip in the skating rink is that tractor, by the looks of it, nothing else. Unless you control the car so delicately as we saw Kimi Räikkönen do.
He's back in the garage and having a debrief. Nico Hulkenberg, it might take him a while to get over this one, I'm afraid. Anthony Davidson and Sky Race Control.
Yeah, so the addition to Lewis Hamilton's message from Bono was that all other cars around him are on the same age intermediate tyres, apart from Verstappen, of course. So, yeah, he's complaining that the tyres aren't up to spec at the moment, but nothing else he could do.
What are your thoughts on track conditions, Max?
It's tricky, mate. It's pretty dry here on the back, but around you guys it's slippery.
And I was just going to tell you exactly that.
It is. It's that final corner, or final 3 corners that are very slippy indeed. And that's where we are seeing an awful lot of incidents and accidents.
The concertina effect in this game is over-exaggerated. And because of that, it's an unfair advantage to the first 2 cars. Because on every race, the first 2 cars jump out to that lead. And at the end of the first lap, everyone should be bunched up close to the way 3 through 11 is. For one driver to have like a half a lap lead after 1 lap, that's just absurd.
midfield make their way behind the safety car once again over the start-finish line. Williams, which for them will be a very pleasant experience indeed, and one they deserve, I'm sure. Ted, down to you.
We have a gambler. We've got a gambler on slicks.
Who's
that?
that?
Stroll.
So here we go again. Racing Point
with you.
And no more rain expected from here to the end of the race. So best chance we have to win the race is getting Verstappen at the restart.
All right, so Valtteri, no pressure. Lance Stroll, they're going to be watching the data there to see if it is good for slicks or not. They might as well take a gamble. He's down in 14th place.
Crofty, another thought on Hamilton. I know Mercedes would rather just add the time to the race time rather than be stuck in the pits for another 5 seconds. But surely he's not going to get to the end on this set of intervals. They would have to make another pit stop anyway, wouldn't they, between now and the end of the race?
I think the trouble is he's got more chance of extending an advantage over Alex Albon and the Toro Rosso than he has of making his way up through 7 or 8 cars if it had taken the hit of a pit stop. Martin?
I have to say, Bottas' tyres are much more worn than those fresh ones. Bottas has went on lap 29, and of course Verstappen put his on lap 41. So I don't think we'll be seeing a lot of overtaking from Bottas to Verstappen. They'll crank that Mercedes motor right up. We'll see what they can do down to turn 6. Verstappen doing as he did before on the restart. It's his prerogative. He's backing them right up, and then he launches just before the double right-hander at the end of the lap.
If he wins this race, he goes to within 40 points of Valtteri Bottas in 3rd place in the championship. Does Lance Stroll, but there's 19 laps to negotiate first, and nothing is for certain here at Hockenheim this afternoon. Verstappen leads them over the line ahead of Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton and Alex Albon. Then comes Carlos Sainz and Pierre Gasly, Kimi Raikkonen, Antonio Giovinazzi, Sebastian Vettel gaining on Giovinazzi, and Romain Grosjean in 10th. Vettel looks to go down the inside of the hairpin, turn 2, nothing doing there, but he gets Giovinazzi on the exit, swoops round the outside, and Sebastian Vettel